Good afternoon, Saints Nation, and happy, okay, not happy, relieved. Week 7 to our Bayou Blitz family. I say relieved because there's only 10 more games. That's one of my bright spots coming out of today. There's only 10 more games. Anyway, welcome to the Week 7 Bayou Blitz post-game show. I am one of your hosts. My name is Bob Rose. He is your other host. His name is Brendan Boylan. Brendan, I'm trying my best. I will try my best today not to drop F-bombs, but it's going to be really, really difficult.
Yeah, this is a frustrating one. Is that the F-bomb you're looking for? Frustrating?
No, mine's much shorter and much more direct.
I mean, I figured, but we could have a laugh about it. But yeah, it was a frustrating game because outside of 2 offensive drives, there wasn't a whole lot to watch. We kind of joked before we went live that we could have done adulting things and had a better use of our time, right? We could have done laundry, cleaned up the house, went grocery shopping, all those things that we still have to do.
Yeah, right.
After watching the game anyway. But yeah, frustrating game. I know you have plenty of thoughts on some things, but I want to start here so you can just get it off your chest. And that was the forward pass, then a lateral, then back to a forward pass call. For me, because I know you're going to have all sorts of thoughts and comments on it. For me, the frustrating part of that is the back and forth, right? At the end of the day, if you're going to make the call, and you know this being a coach, right? If you're going to make the call, just stick to it. There's no need to go and flip-flop, right? It was 3 different calls in the span of what? 5 minutes, if you include the review time. If you're going to call it a forward pass, call it a forward pass and then don't pick up the flag. But if you're going to pick up the flag, don't then go back and say that there was inconclusive evidence to change the call. And that's always been my problem. And unfortunately, we've talked about this already this year when it comes to the officiating. And we've talked about games, whether it's Gene Steratore, or in this case, Mike Pereira coming on and saying like, well, no, I didn't see enough to change the call, or I didn't see enough to whatever the case may be. Right. So that's the frustrating thing. We've talked about it this year and in years past. Officials need to be held accountable. Officials need to be fined. Officials need to, whatever the case may be. The league won't do that because the league will admit at that point that there was something wrong or that they were wrong. And that's why that'll never happen. But that's the frustrating part for me. Whether the ball went forward or backwards, just pick one. All right. We don't need to jump rope with the call back and forth and back and forth. With all that said, my final 2 cents is it looked even. And if it wasn't even, it was inches. And at that point, why make the call? There was not enough inconclusive evidence, right? If anything, the call should have stood on the field, and it should have been a legal lateral. With that, Bob, I know you're going to have more fruitful language, perhaps. So I leave it in your hands.
It was such horse shit. It was beyond horse shit. You say it looked even. I'll tell you, look again, because it was a very, very clear lateral by Taysom Hill. He was knocked backwards. Even the idiot mouthpiece official on the field said the pass started out backwards, but the player caught it forwards. Look, go back, guys, and look. That's exactly what he said. By definition, that's a fucking lateral. And what's the point of having replay if you're going to blatantly ignore the evidence that's right in front of you? Because it's a fucking lateral. Mike Pereira, Gene Steratore, the idiot, the corrupt idiots on the field, they're all mouthpieces of Goodell. And just like the bullshit last week that we witnessed, I'm not going to call it a conspiracy against the Saints, because the Saints, a conspiracy against a bad football team would just be pathetic. And grant you, Roger Goodell and his goons are pathetic, but not quite that bad. But it's a fucking lateral. Whether that changes the game or not, I don't know, because Spencer Rattler still would have had to throw a pass, and God only knows what's going to happen when that happens. But I mean, don't cheat. Don't cheat. That's all I ask. Let the players decide it on the field. And when there are close calls, and okay, this was, if I'm Ben Johnson, I challenge that too, 100%. But I'm also willing to acknowledge, as I'm looking up at the replay on the Jumbotron, that I'm probably not going to win this challenge, but I challenge it nonetheless. The Bears were unlucky and shot themselves in the foot a lot today, but or not unlucky. They shot themselves in the foot or tried to shoot themselves in the foot, but they also got really damn lucky. And one of them was on this call. Again, whether that changes the game or not, probably not. But at least let the players play. God, I hate when fucking officials decide the outcome to not only NFL games, college football games, college basketball, professional hockey. I said it last week, and I'm going to start to say it more often. If these officials want to be on camera so bad, then start a freaking OnlyFans. I will pay you for your OnlyFans just to stay off of the NFL field. So sickening. And the Saints' performance itself was sickening today, and that sent me over the edge.
Yeah, I think the other thing, and I remember this being a big conversation, geez, I don't remember how many years ago, but the idea of having full-time officials, because these officials still aren't full-time jobs, it wouldn't make a difference.
No, because they would still do what Goodell in the office wants them to do.
But again, these guys, like, there's got to be accountability. I had mentioned maybe last week or the week before, the NBA puts out a 2-minute report, right, of calls that were wrong both ways in the last 2 minutes, whether it was a foul and it wasn't called a foul, or whether it was a foul and it really wasn't a foul. The NFL will never do that. But I wish there was something that would go back and look at all the games that get played every week and be like, okay, this call was incorrect. This call was incorrect. This call was incorrect. Again, the league won't do that because they'd have to admit fault. But it does get frustrating watching things week in and week out. Again, this call not necessarily affecting the outcome of the game, but it becomes frustrating when you have a guy who works for CBS or Fox in this case today that is your rules expert and analyst, and they continuously disagree with the calls on the field. And if these guys that are the rules analysts, as Bob used the air quotes, were at one point the head of NFL officiating or pretty dang close, and they're coming out and being like, no, that's not right, well, then you have a problem with the officiating on the field. Again, nothing's going to get fixed because the league would have to admit their faults. But let's move away from that. And let's move to, last thing. The thing that sucks the most is it's not like you can pull that play out again. That was your one chance this year to use that play. And it worked, and now you can't pull it back out again. So that sucks for a coaching staff too. Let's talk about just the Saints in general.
Yeah.
I want to get to Spencer Rattler, and obviously that's where a lot of people want to go. But I want to start with the inability or ineffectiveness in the run game on both sides of the ball, right? So I want to start with the Saints' inability to run the football. Now, Kendre Miller gets hurt early in this game, does not return. That doesn't make much of a difference. This is another week where, and I'll throw Kamara's numbers up on the screen, where you're concerned because a guy who has been year in and year out a Pro Bowl level talent is averaging somewhere around 3 yards per carry over the last few weeks. If you take all those numbers and you combine them, that's not the Alvin Kamara that you and I are used to, or what these Saints fans are used to. Now, I would be remiss to not admit you are starting to see maybe not drastic slower steps, but a little bit of a slower burst from Kamara. That's a part of just getting older and reaching that magical 30 number that we love talking about for running backs. However, there's nowhere to run. There are no holes. There are no gaps. I think there was one carry today where Alvin gained 5 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
They
it.
had 2 plays where they pitched it to him. Other than that, everything else was between the tackles, usually right into the teeth of the defense, including the brainless 4th and 1 call, where and Kellen Moore and Brandon Staley, I put this loss on you even more than the players. It's close, but I put it on you. The game plan and play calling on both sides were, and a lack of adjustments were just horrid. And I'll try to stay to the running game when I slant this. You're not getting any traction at all up the middle. I mean, the Bears are just dominating you, in the trenches offensively. But you make 0 adjustments. You don't even try. You don't even attempt to get Kamara outside. You just run him into the teeth time and time and time again. Again, the definition of insanity. Defensively, it was the same way. The Bears were gashing you between the tackles, and you didn't bring. We did see Danny Stutzman a little bit more, but Pete Werner absolutely embarrassed himself today again. You didn't bring a safety into the box. Rarely did you. When you did, Justin Reed's call playing is absolutely abysmal. Not just today, but I'll come out say it right. Most of this season, he is not the Justin Reed we thought that we were getting. I don't know who that is with Reed on the back of his jersey, but it's not Justin Reed. Again, I'm not putting this loss solely on him. Not putting the loss solely on anyone, because it was a collective, pathetic, embarrassing effort. And when by the way, the word effort, when it comes to running the ball or stopping the run, there's some schematic. There's a lot of schematics that go into that. But the bottom line is, it's who wants it more, who's going to be more physical, who has more fight in them. Well, that was clear today by the Bears. 222 freaking rushing yards, 6.6 per carry, and the Saints 44 yards, 2.6 per carry. That stat alone tells you who has the more fight in these football teams.
Yeah. Now, some of the Saints' lack of rushing numbers comes from the fact they were behind the whole game, but it does not excuse the yards per carry number, right? I am really disappointed. Really not just this game, but play calling as a whole the last little bit, even the victory. Because you go back and look and listen to the podcast we have now done for almost 190 episodes, which is remarkable, by the way, that you've put up with me for this long. But we've been saying it for 3 years now, is like, what are they doing with Alvin Kamara? Why is he running in the A gap constantly, or even the B gap? Let's get him to the C gap. Let's get him out, outside the tackle. And again, I understand Kendra was hurt in this game, and Devin Neal had some snaps, and Neal had one excellent play. I do want to just address that, where he came across the front of Spencer Rattler to save a sack, and probably what would have been a strip sack. So, I mean, effort.
Speaking of effort, considering Alvin Kamara almost got Spencer Rattler killed on 3 straight blitz pickups.
Mm-hmm.
Astonishing lack of effort on Kamara on 2 of those 3, and then on the third one, I don't know, he just got out physicaled, which I suppose you could also attribute to lack of effort, because it wasn't a defensive lineman or a linebacker that out physicaled him; it was a safety. So yeah, if you're going to give props to Devin Neal, for that one play, then you got to mention Alvin Kamara's lack of effort on 3 of those blitzes. And after, Dennis Allen, he's a smart defensive coach. We know that. And I mean, he saw that early in the game. And I mean, he was just relentless in bringing the blitz off the edge, especially when Kamara was in the game. And that nullified Kamara as a pass receiver too, to be fair. That was probably DA's original strategy. And then, after the first one, I'm going to keep coming at him too. And again, the Saints had no answer for it. Had no answer or didn't bother with an answer.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's this topic of lack of effort from Alvin Kamara has been a talking point over the years as well. There are games where you feel that Kamara is really locked in, and then you throw on the tape of the next week, and you're just, is this the same player? Like, what's going on? And it's been puzzling, because some of it you may attribute to, is he getting early touches? Like, if we get him touches early in the game, is that going to change it? We've seen instances where that's happened, and it's like, no. He definitely, to me, over the years of doing this, feels like a rhythm and vibes type of player.
Yeah.
If
No
he's
doubt.
in a rhythm, if he's getting good blocking in front of him, has those cutback lanes, or he's getting the ball in space and able to make plays, you're getting the more out of him. To where if it's a game like today where he had 11 carries for 28 yards, he does seem a little disinterested, and maybe the effort's not all there. Let's talk about guys where the effort was maybe a little bit better as we transition into the pass game. Let's start with Chris Olave. The report this week was that Olave and the Saints are working towards a contract extension. I'm going to be really curious to what those numbers look like.
Mm-hmm.
Olave did play better today.
Mm-hmm.
First multi-touchdown game of his career. Did have one or two plays where catchable balls didn't come up with it. But you see the numbers on the screen. It's hard to argue the type of game that Chris Olave had. And coming up with his first reception of over 25 yards all year, I believe. I will take that every day of the week. That was one of Spencer's better thrown balls. However, you got to make, if you're an NFL quarterback, you got to make that pass with the look that you got. But Chris, five receptions, 98 yards, 2 scores. Really impressed with, I believe it was it the second touchdown or the first touchdown that was closer to the sideline, not in between 3 guys, where Rattler had good protection up front and made the throw. But I think it was the second one.
Yeah, because the first one was an in cut at the end of the half.
Right. So the second one, I was impressed with his ability to climb the ladder, get it, get his feet down. That was the type of catch we saw out of Olave in the first 2 years of his career that we had not seen as of late. He looked a little bit more dialed in today, Bob.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'll agree with that. And if you're going to award an offensive player of the game, on the Saints side, it's got to go to Chris Olave. Nobody else is really even close. The 50 something yard bomb, the 53, 58 yard bomb at the end of the first half on that beautiful drive, by the way, was probably Spencer Rattler's best throw, easily of his NFL career, maybe his life. And we'll get into this Rattler criticisms in a minute. But yeah, I mean, Olave, when you said he looked tuned in, looked locked in, I think that's a great way to put it. And for an abysmal offensive performance today outside of 2 drives, I thought Olave was far and away the best player on the Saints side.
Yeah, and Juwan Johnson had his normal Juwan Johnson moments, both high and low. Right, that's kind of what we expect from Juwan at this point. But he had 5 catches for 79 yards. Came through with 1 catch down the seam that put a little bit of a juice into a drive, but also dropped one down the seam as well. It would have been a tough one, but you still, you get your hands on it. You hope he comes up with it. outside of that, there really isn't a whole lot of positives to talk about the offense. And unfortunately, for an offense that was taking more shots downfield than ever, which is something that you and I have certainly asked for and a lot of Saints fans have asked for, it may have been Spencer Rattler's worst game, not just of this season, but of his Saints career.
Statistically, it certainly looks so. I mean, he was sacked 4 times. 2 of those were easily his fault. You can make a strong case that the third one was, including the fumble. There was a fumble. There was a 10-yard sack that he took. The play before the lateral. This was the kind of lack of pocket presence that I've seen from Rattler at Oklahoma, at South Carolina, and the pre-draft process, and as a rookie. It was the kind of pocket presence, or it was an area of improvement up until this week. But I thought that his pocket presence was horrid. I like the aggressiveness. You just kind of mentioned that. I like the aggressiveness that he was looking to go downfield. But I mean, when you throw 3 interceptions and fumble the ball once, and frankly, Rattler had 3 picks. He should have had 6. There was one where he threw into triple coverage. It should have been a pick in the first half. Same scenario earlier in the second half, and then I think we all saw when the 2 Bears collided in the fourth quarter. Otherwise, that would have been another pick. I mean, that's 6 interceptions. I'm not going to pin this loss all on Rattler, though. No, folks, he is not going to be benched for next week's game against Tampa Bay for Tyler Shuck. I don't think you can in good conscience, and we'll talk more about that on Wednesday this week when we do our show. But yeah, I mean, Spencer's a competitor, and we saw that today. He's a gamer, and he was trying to be aggressive, exactly what we have criticized him for not being throughout most of his NFL career. So when you're aggressive and you have an outing like this, it's tough. It is tough to criticize, but right to do so. And I think I saw on social media somebody posted, I don't remember, Facebook, Twitter, whatever the case. Someone said, well, this is what you get when you ask a career backup to go out and win the game for you by taking downfield shots. And I mean, there's a lot to that statement. I'm not ready to deem Rattler ready for the bench or any of that stuff yet. But it was the kind of outing that makes it difficult to make the case for him to keep his job once you've been eliminated from playoff competition, which feels like in a matter of a couple weeks here. And you're going down the roster and you're saying, okay, I've seen what I need to see from this guy or this position, so we're going to make a move. Rattler's another performance or two like this, and you have to say them. You need to play Tyler Shuck because we have seen all we're going to see from Spencer Rattler as far as upside goes.
Yeah, and again, we'll talk about it more during our weekly show. But Bob did an excellent job before we got on of looking at the schedule and saying Tampa, Los Angeles Rams, kind of hard to justify throwing a rookie quarterback to either of those teams, 2 teams that are competing in the NFC. Then you get the Panthers, and then you get a bye week. So if there is a window that you're looking at perhaps that Panthers game, or waiting until the bye week and announcing that Shuck's going to start sometime during the bye week, or at least, maybe not to the media, but in-house, hey, Shuck's going to make his first start after the bye. And then you have 2 full weeks to prepare him for his first NFL start. I think that is more likely. Unless Rattler's outstanding against 2
right.
NFC, true NFC contenders. But if you have a performance like this against the Bears, who could find themselves sneaking into maybe a wild card spot, maybe, depends on how the rest of the season goes for them. I don't see it playing super well against Tampa. I don't see it playing super well against the Rams. You may be able to beat the Panthers, who are a sneaky 4-3, but nothing that has really jumped out to really wow you either. It's kind of one of those weird teams where you're going to look at the record and be like, are they? There's no way they're that good, right?
Right.
So that's kind of where the Saints stand. Defensively, again, there's not a whole lot to talk about. I do want to applaud Caleb Williams, the escapability to extend plays, even though none of those plays ended up becoming anything.
Right.
But they're fun. You know, you get these little like throwbacks while you're watching it, and your head's like, "Wow, this is Brett Favre." You know, where you have a guy who's just running in circles and looking for something and can't find anything. A lot of that's on the Saints not being able to finish, but it was fun. You know, from a neutral standpoint, it was fun to watch a guy, you know, move around. You're kind of on the edge of your seat, like what's going to happen. Chase Young, half a sack. Brian Bresee, half a sack. That was that one sack together. Young had 2 pass breakups.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the first or second play of the game where it would have been tough for him to be able to turn around and make the pick, but to kind of jump in the passing lane and get that thing probably 10 feet in the air and look around and try to find it. I thought that was an energetic start that clearly didn't echo throughout the rest of the game for the defense.
Well, and Chase had a play later, almost identical pass, pass breakup near interception. But that's the story of Mr. Almost. He had, by my counts, Chase Young had 7 pressures today. Including 2 quarterback hits where he wasn't able to get Caleb on the ground. I mean, one was blatant where, you give Caleb Williams some points for the escapability. But like you just said, when we see it week after week after week with pretty much all the Saints pass rushers, I mean, how complimentary are you going to be at Caleb Williams at that point? So, Chase Young, it shows how embarrassing a performance today was, especially on the defensive side. If I'm giving my game ball to Mr. Almost for being Mr. Almost, he almost had 2 interceptions of really nice pass breakups, and he almost had as many as 4 sacks included in those 7 pressures. But that's the game ball today, Mr. Almost, for being Mr. Almost.
Quincy Riley, I think, will ultimately be a guy that you get a game ball to, not just for the interception, but you're seeing him play a lot more, and I think playing a lot more than we expected him to, and not playing poorly. I wouldn't say outstanding. I wouldn't say great. Maybe not even good, but well enough, respectable enough.
Well, there was, and I agree with you about Quincy Riley. I just had to insult Mr. Almost a little bit more.
Sure.
Riley had the interception. I think you said before we went on the air, ESPN was only crediting him with 1 pass breakup. It feels like more. I'll torture myself as I do every week by rewatching this game and focusing on Riley specifically and a couple others. But Rome Odunze, really good wide receiver. 2 catches for 31 yards. DJ Moore, really good wide receiver. 3 catches for 43 yards. Of those 5 catches, only one, to my recollection and in my notes, only one came when Riley was the closest defender. So they didn't target with Riley with any success, and he really didn't give up many game-changing plays. You can't say that about Kool-Aid McKinstry. Kool-Aid was up and down today. The safety play, I already mentioned how horrid Justin Reed was. Sanker, I thought, struggled again today. They all struggled with tackles, tackling in the open field, both after short passes and after a running back got to the second level. I'll begrudgingly give my other defensive game ball to Quincy Riley, because he was a standout, because he didn't suck like the rest of them.
We said it one year, I think it was last year, the year before, like, just don't suck. or something like that, opposed to like
Yeah.
just being like average, like just don't suck. And I think we're kind of at that point with this team as well. Any final thoughts about this one, or any particular players or moments in this game that we didn't really get to?
Um, no.
No,
No, it was an embarrassing performance. I don't remember whether I said it live shortly after we went on the air or before we went live. But frankly, I'm more angry and I feel more fed up with this loss than I did about the Seattle loss a few weeks back. Because if the Bears were a good football team, they win this game by 30 points. That's how poorly the Saints played. That's how roughed up the Saints were and out physical the Saints were. That's how outclassed the Saints were in several different positions. There's still some things to take away from it. I mean, Chase Young, Mr. Almost, he looked lively. So you got to give him credit for that. He certainly looked like he had some pep in his legs. Brian Bresee is still making some quiet plays. If they ever get rebuild a defense around him, he's a player. I'm impressed with the play of Quincy Riley. Olave, it was nice to see him tuned in. I don't know whether that affects his trade value, whether that affects whether the Saints decide to try to trade him. We'll be writing an article on that topic this week. But the coaches really let me down today. Brandon Staley, Doug Nussmeier, and especially Kellen Moore. And I'm going to start to be more critical of them. I've given them a pass to a certain extent because, Moore especially, it's his first year as a head coach. But when your failings are on your specialty, which is the offense, when you have no imagination, when the play calling loses you games, when the game plans lose you games, then you have to start to be held accountable too. Yes, this team needs more talent on both sides of the football. I don't think there's any question about that. But the coaching ain't helping. When you have, good coaches are supposed to make up for a lack of talent, and that ain't happening. The coaching is actually bringing down the level of already poor talent, and that's the best way to sum up today's game.
Yeah, play calling, particularly one drive, the third down call, on a slant on 3rd and 1 was awful. Like just an awful play call. If anything, hand it to Alvin, let him run up the middle like he has all game, and hope he can fall forward for a yard.
Mm-hmm.
Or run a read option. We saw one that was successful that was negated by a penalty that Rattler was able to break free for about 10 yards. Do something like that. Why are we running? Bob, you talked about it all year. This is a track team, which means for the most part, you're not throwing slants to guys that are shorter than me, right? Which brings me to another thing, and the last player I want to talk about today. Where the hell is Vele at?
They throw to him once a game,
Once.
almost to placate us.
I don't get it. I do not understand. And in this point, it's past the draft picks. Like, I don't care that they gave up a 4th and a 7th or whatever. I think that was right. 4th and a 7th. And they also, whatever that case was. I don't really care. But why go get a big bodied receiver to not use him? Right? Because that was our knock, right? Is this team doesn't have a big bodied target. This team doesn't have a big bodied target, especially after Peoples-Jones didn't make the team. We're sitting there like, we don't have a receiver that's taller than 6 feet. So you get one. Great. Did I understand it? For the size? Yeah, sure. And has had some flashes? Sure. Like Bob said, 1 target a game. How is Brandon Cooks being used? Right, and this stuff goes to the coaching too. And we didn't expect a whole lot out of Brandon Cooks this year either. But that's another guy who's averaging like 1 target, maybe 2 targets a game. And it's like, why? Why go make the signing for a guy who plays the exact same as the 2 guys ahead of him on the depth chart to not have him involved in the offense at all? Outside of just, he gets to burn some calories by going in motion every time he's in the game.
Right.
That's all he's doing, right? We'll talk more about some of that stuff during the week. I do think you and I need to have a good, strong discussion about kind of coaching and play calling this week, because it hasn't been good. I wouldn't put the loss solely on them. Obviously, there's multiple things that this loss goes on, but it doesn't help because it is very vanilla, everything. And at some point, you got to rip the Band-Aid off and stop being vanilla and really show us who you are as a coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
Because this was the target, from our understanding, this was the target all along, to bring in Moore and his staff. So let's see why you guys were the target throughout the offseason. With that, Bob, I guess we'll go do adult things, get some laundry done, do some grocery shopping. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode. But what you got?
No, I mean, adult things for me also count writing about this abomination.
Oh, right.
Before I turn around and rewatch it. Yeah, but listen, we also want to mention that Brendan and I, the Bayou Blitz, continue to be very proud of promoting our friends at Get Checked or Check Out. Check out their website at the bottom of the screen. It's tcynow.org. Get Checked or Check Out is an organization put in place to help steer patients and or patients' families in the right direction when you get a negative health or a fearful health diagnosis. They'll steer you in the right direction for treatment options, research options, therapy, be it individual, family, or group. That's what they're there for. But check out their website, donate to them, please, because while they're there to help us, they need our help to help them help us. I enjoy saying that every week. Get Checked or Check Out also wants us to remind you that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Pink October since the 1980s. Most people know what that means, what that stands for. What you may not know is that breast cancer is the second most commonly diagnosed cancer globally, which just increases the importance to stay informed and proactive about getting regularly screened and doing your self-checks at home. Getting those regular mammograms, awareness of family history, self-checks. They all help with early detection and diagnosis, which helps with improved treatment outcomes. Other ways you can help yourself, not only in this case, but in all health cases. Maintain a healthy weight, get regular exercise, eat a healthiest diet as possible, limit your alcohol consumptions, and don't smoke or do recreational drugs. The major thing that Get Checked or Check Out does every single year for fundraiser is, as some of you, I hope most of you know by now, is the original Go Black and Gold Celebrity Charity Fan Cruise. The 2026 cruise will be sailing from Jacksonville, Florida into the Bahamas. That's a new departure site and a new destination, but I'm excited for both. Listen, I went on this cruise for the first time last year. They've been doing it for 12 years. First time last year as part of the promotion. And I absolutely loved it. And I know you guys will too. I want to meet more of you in person. I got to meet several of you on the boats last year. It was an absolute thrill. And I want more of you to go on this thing. Not only for you to give yourself the trip of a lifetime, but to help such a great cause. The Saints greats that are going to be going, I've already confirmed for this year's cruise, are Delvin Breaux, Tyrone Hughes, Michael Lewis, Courtney Roby, and Pierre Thomas. Those 5 went last year too. We are expecting more, but I had a blast hanging out with these guys and their families as well. And you don't get just access to them during certain times, a Q&A session here, an autograph session there. They're hanging out with you the entire time. We're all hanging out together. It's like literally like one big Houdat family reunion. So that's what gives you another once-in-a-lifetime experience. So please help out the foundation and give yourself a wonderful trip by booking your cabin now. You can do so by getting a hold of Summer Cochran. Summer's number is 985-643-6666. 6958. That's a cell number, so you can either text or call her. And please, again, book now. Get it out of the way. You don't have to pay it all off until January. Just make a down payment now to book your room. When you do so, you tell Summer that you were referred by us and the Bayou Blitz. She will know how to take care of you. But please, I want more of you guys on this cruise. I want to make it a nationally talked about function, because that helps get checked or check out. That helps bring exposure to all these former Saints greats that we enjoyed watching when we were younger, and we enjoyed chatting with and yucking it up with now. So I mean, honestly, there's no reason not to go. But please do that, and don't forget, keep up on your doctor's appointments. Yes, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but we want you to be aware of all health-related issues, not only for yourself, but for your friends and family members.
Well said, Bob. Well, Bob can be found and followed at Bob Rose at BobbyR2613. You can follow his work with Saints Wire, a USA Today publication. Unfortunately, Bob has to write about this week, so go ahead and support Bob by reading the articles. For myself, Brendan Boylan, you can follow me virtually everywhere at BT Boylan. I just had something come across the desk, so I do want to share because it is NFC South related. Doug Martin, the muscle hamster, has passed away at the age of 36 years old.
Oh, no.
Made 2 Pro Bowl appearances with the Bucs and was an All-Pro, I believe, back in 14 or 15. Quite the running back during his career. Again, passed away at the age of 36 years old. Well, until this upcoming week, it looks like we're going to be docked in for a Wednesday on a Thursday night for the Bayou Blitz. I hope you guys have an enjoyable rest of your Sunday. Go do those adulting things so you don't have to do them tomorrow. And until Thursday, I hope you guys find some peace, spread love, practice positivity. And thanks so much for tuning in to the Bayou Blitz post-game show. We'll see you on Thursday. Who dat?